The first time I heard Riley's voice crack with love, it wasn't meant for me, or so I thought. I was crouched behind the mess hall, my heart pounding as her whispered words to the night air carried my name like a prayer. Now, standing across from her on this dusty camp trail, her blue eyes lock onto mine with the cold distance of a stranger, and I'm left wondering if I imagined it all. My name is Emma, and I'm 26, a first-year counselor at Camp Whispering Pines, a sprawling retreat nestled in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. The summer of 2025 was supposed to be my escapee, a chance to leave behind a string of bad decisions and a family that never quite understood me. I'd always been the dreamer, the one who felt too much, loved too fiercely, and broke too easily. This camp, with its endless pines and shimmering lake, promised a fresh start. But nothing could have prepared me for Riley Morgan, the 28-year-old head coach who moved through the camp like she owned the earth itself. Riley was everything I wasn't: steady, commanding, unshakable. Her black hair caught the sunlight like a raven's wing, and her sharp blue eyes seemed to see through everyone, except, apparently, me. She led canoe drills with precision, taught archery with a quiet intensity, and laughed with the campers in a way that made my chest ache. I'd catch myself watching her, memorizing the way her hands moved when she tied knots or the way her voice softened when she spoke to the younger kids. I told myself it was admiration, nothing more. I'd been burned before, beloved, by trust, by my own reckless heart. But then came that night. It was the second week of camp, after a long day of relay races and campfire songs. The campers were asleep, and the counselors had retreated to their cabins. I couldn't sleep, my mind buzzing with the kind of restless energy that only summer nights bring. So I slipped out barefoot to the mess hall, craving the solitude of the stars. That's when I heard her, Riley, alone on the porch, her voice low and raw. "Emma," she whispered, as if testing the word. "God, why does it have to be you?" My breath caught, my body frozen behind the wooden wall. "I can't do this again," she continued, her voice breaking. "But I can't stop thinking about you." I didn't move, didn't breathe, didn't dare let her know I was there. Her words were a confession, a secret meant for no one but the night. I stayed until she left, her footsteps fading into the dark. The next morning, she looked at me like I was just another counselor, her face unreadable, her tone clipped. Had I misheard? Had I dreamed it? I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd stumbled into something bigger than myself, something that could unravel us both. The days that followed were torture. Riley was everywhere, leading morning stretches, barking orders during Capture the Flag, her presence a constant pull on my heart. I wanted to confront her, to demand answers, but fear held me back. What if I'd misunderstood? What if she didn't mean it? Worse, what if she did? I'd spent years hiding my own truth, growing up in a small Ohio town where being a lesbian wasn't something you shouted from the rooftops. My family called it a phase, my ex called it a mistake. I'd come to camp to find myself, not to lose myself in someone else's secrets. But Riley wasn't making it easy. One afternoon during a kayaking lesson, she knelt beside me to adjust my paddle grip, her fingers brushing mine. The contact sent a jolt through me, and I swear I saw her pause, her breath hitching. "Keep your wrists loose, Emma," she said, her voice softer than usual. I nodded, unable to speak, my heart hammering. That night, I caught her watching me across the campfire, her eyes glinting in the flickering light. She looked away when I met her gaze, but the moment lingered, heavy with possibility. By the third week, I was a mess of nerves and hope. The campers noticed my distraction, teasing me when I fumbled during crafts or spaced out during hikes. "Miss Emma's got a crush," one of them giggled, and I flushed, praying Riley hadn't heard. But she had. She was always watching, always aware, even when she pretended not to be. That night I found a note slipped under my cabin door, written in her sharp, slanted handwriting. "Meet me at the dock. Midnight." No signature, but I knew it was her. I spent the next few hours pacing, my mind racing. Was this it? Was she finally going to say something? Or was I walking into heartbreak? At midnight I crept to the lake, the water still and silver under the moon. Riley was there, sitting on the edge of the dock, her silhouette sharp against the night. She didn't turn when I approached, but her voice was steady. "You shouldn't be here, Emma." "Then why did you ask me to come?" I shot back, my voice trembling with frustration. She stood, finally facing me, and for the first time, I saw it, fear in her eyes, raw and unguarded. Because I'm an idiot, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. And because I can't keep pretending I don't feel this. My heart stopped. Feel what? I asked, stepping closer, desperate for her to say it. But she shook her head, her jaw tight. You don't know me, Emma. You don't know what I've done. She turned to leave, but I grabbed her arm, my fingers digging into her sleeve. Then tell me, I pleaded. Tell me who you are. For a moment I thought she would. Her eyes searched mine, and I saw the battle raging inside her, want versus fear, hope versus pain. Then she pulled away, her voice cold. Go back to your cabin. This was a mistake. She walked away, leaving me alone on the dock, the weight of her words and her silence crushing me. I didn't sleep that night. Her confession from the mess hall echoed in my mind, tangled with her rejection at the dock. What was she hiding? Why was she pushing me away? I knew one thing for certain. Riley Morgan was a puzzle, and I was too far gone to stop trying to solve her. The next morning I woke with a fire in my chest. Riley's words on the dock, her refusal to let me in, had left me raw, but they also ignited something fierce. I wasn't going to let her hide from me, not when I'd heard the truth in her voice that night behind the mess hall. I was done playing it safe. Camp life churned on, oblivious to the storm brewing inside me. The campers were buzzing with excitement for the annual talent show, and I threw myself into helping them rehearse skits and songs, hoping the chaos would drown out my thoughts of Riley. But she was inescapable. During breakfast, I caught her glancing at me from the staff table, her expression unreadable. When I led a group of kids to the archery range, she was there, adjusting bows with that maddening focus of hers. Every moment felt like a test, and I was failing miserably. By midweek, I couldn't take it anymore. I cornered her after a staff meeting, waiting until the other counselors filed out of the lodge. We need to talk, I said, my voice steady despite the tremor in my hands. Riley froze, her hand on the doorframe, her back to me. There's nothing to talk about, she said, but her tone lacked conviction. Then why do you keep looking at me like that? I pressed, stepping closer. Like you're trying to figure me out, but you're too scared to try. Her shoulders tensed, and for a second I thought she'd bolt. But she turned, her blue eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that stole my breath. You don't know what you're asking for, Emma, she said, her voice low and rough. You don't know me. Then let me, I shot back. Stop pushing me away. For a moment, neither of us moved, the air between us thick with unspoken words. Then she sighed, her guard slipping just enough for me to see the exhaustion beneath. Meet me tonight, she said finally. The old oak by the trailhead. 9 o'clock. She didn't wait for my reply, just walked out, leaving me reeling. The rest of the day dragged, each hour heavier than the last. I couldn't focus, my mind replaying her words, her voice, the way her eyes had softened for just a moment. When 9 o'clock finally came, I found her under the massive oak, its branches sprawling like a protective canopy. She was leaning against the trunk, her arms crossed, her face half hidden in shadow. You're stubborn, she said as I approached, a faint smile tugging at her lips. Says the woman who's been dodging me for weeks, I replied, matching her tone. She laughed, a short, reluctant sound that made my heart skip. Fair enough, she said, then gestured for me to sit. I settled on the grass beside her, the cool night air wrapping around us. For a while we just sat there, the silence heavy but not uncomfortable. I could feel her wrestling with something, her fingers twisting the hem of her jacket. Finally she spoke. I wasn't always like this, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Closed off, I mean. I used to be. Open. Too open. She paused, her eyes distant. I grew up in Chicago, in a family that didn't take kindly to me being me. Lesbian, out proud, none of that went over well. When I was 19 I fell hard for someone. Her name was Lauren. I thought she was it, you know? The one. Her voice cracked, and I resisted the urge to reach for her hand. What happened? I asked softly, my heart aching for the pain in her words. Riley stared at the ground, her jaw tight. She broke me, she said simply. She said she loved me, but when things got tough, when her family found out, she chose them over me. Acted like I was nothing, like we were nothing. I left Chicago after that. Swore I'd never let anyone in again. Her words hit me like a punch. I understood that kind of betrayal, the kind that makes you question everything you are. I'm not her, Riley, I said, my voice fierce. I'm not going to hurt you like that. She looked at me then, her eyes searching mine, and for the first time I saw her, really saw her. Not the confident coach, not the guarded stranger, but the woman who'd been hurt and was terrified to try again. I know you're not, she said quietly. That's what scares me. Before I could respond, she stood, brushing grass from her jeans. I need time, Emma. It's a lot. I nodded, swallowing the urge to push her further. I'll wait, I said, meaning it. She gave me a small, grateful smile before disappearing into the dark. The next few days were a blur of cautious hope. Riley didn't avoid me anymore, but she didn't seek me out either. We moved around each other like planets in orbit, close but never touching. I caught her smiling at me during a camp sing-along, and once when a camper tripped during a hike, she brushed past me to help, her hand lingering on my arm. Each moment was a spark, a promise of something more. But the camp wasn't a bubble. Whispers started spreading among the staff, gossip about Riley, about me, about the way we looked at each other. One of the older counselors, a woman named Karen, pulled me aside one afternoon. Be careful with her, she warned, her eyes sharp. Riley's got history. People talk. I brushed it off, but her words planted a seed of doubt. What else didn't I know about Riley? What was she still hiding? By the end of the 4th week, the tension between us was unbearable. The talent show was in full swing, the campers' laughter filling the air, but all I could think about was her. I found her after the show, standing alone by the lake, her silhouette framed by the moonlight. Riley, I called, my voice steady despite the pounding in my chest. She turned, and for once she didn't look away. I heard you, I said, the words spilling out before I could stop them. Riley's eyes widened, her breath catching as she stood frozen by the lake. That night behind the mess hall, you said my name. You said you couldn't stop thinking about me. The air between us crackled, the weight of my confession hanging like a storm cloud. Riley's face shifted, shock, fear, then something softer, something that looked like relief. You weren't supposed to hear that, she whispered, her voice raw. God, Emma, why didn't you say anything? Because I didn't know what it meant, I admitted, stepping closer. The moonlight painted her features in silver, and I could see the battle in her eyes, wanting to run, wanting to stay. I still don't. But I'm tired of guessing, Riley. I need to know what you feel. She looked away, her hands clenching into fists. It's not that simple, she said, her voice strained. You think you want me, but you don't know the mess you're walking into. I reached for her hand, my fingers brushing hers, and she didn't pull away. Then show me, I said. Let me decide for myself. For a heartbeat, she said nothing, her eyes searching mine. Then slowly she intertwined her fingers with mine, her touch warm and tentative. Okay, she said so softly I almost missed it. But you might regret this. That night marked a shift. Riley stopped hiding, at least from me. We stole moments between camp duties, quiet talks by the fire, shared glances during meals, her hand brushing mine as we passed out craft supplies. Each touch, each look was a step closer, a crack in the wall she built around herself. But the camp wasn't blind. The other counselors noticed, their whispers growing louder. Karen's warnings echoed in my mind, but I pushed them aside. Riley was worth it. She had to be. One afternoon during a rare break, we slipped away to the far side of the lake, hidden by a cluster of willows. Riley sat cross-legged on the grass, her usual confidence softened by the sunlight filtering through the leaves. Tell me about you, she said, her voice gentle. Not the camp counselor. The real Emma. I hesitated, my past a tangle of things I'd rather forget. But her eyes were steady, urging me to trust her. So I told her about growing up in Ohio, about the mother who called my feelings unnatural, about the ex who left me when I came out. I came here to start over, I finished, my voice barely above a whisper. To figure out who I am when I'm not hiding. Riley reached for my hand, her thumb tracing circles on my skin. You're braver than you think, she said, and the sincerity in her voice made my chest ache. I wish I could be like that. I wanted to ask what she meant, but before I could, she leaned in, her lips brushing mine in a kiss so soft it felt like a dream. My heart roared, and when we pulled apart, her smile was shy, unguarded. I've wanted to do that for weeks, she admitted. Then do it again, I said, grinning. She laughed, and this time the kiss was deeper, fiercer, like we were making up for lost time. For the first time, I felt like I was exactly where I was meant to be. But paradise didn't last. The next day, during a staff meeting, Karen's voice cut through the chatter. We need to talk about professionalism, she said, her eyes flicking to me and Riley. This camp has standards. Personal relationships between staff can't interfere with our work. The room went silent, and I felt Riley tense beside me. She didn't look at me, but her hand found mine under the table, squeezing tightly. After the meeting, Riley pulled me aside, her face pale. This is what I was afraid of, she said, her voice low. People talk, Emma. They judge. And it's not just about you, it's about the kids, the camp, everything. I wanted to argue, to tell her we could handle it, but the fear in her eyes stopped me. What are you saying? I asked, dread pooling in my stomach. I'm saying we need to be careful, she said. Or Thysiscald ruin everything. Her words stung, but I nodded, swallowing my hurt. I thought I understood her fear, but I didn't know the half of it. That night, I overheard Karen talking to another counselor by the cabins. Riley's done this before, she said, her voice sharp. Got too close to a counselor last summer. It ended badly, really badly. The girl left camp in tears, and Riley acted like it never happened. My blood ran cold. Was that true? Was Riley hiding more than just her feelings for me? I confronted her the next morning, my heart pounding as I found her by the archery range. Is it true? I demanded, my voice shaking. Did you break someone's heart last summer? Riley's face went white, her eyes wide with panic. Who told you that? She asked, but she didn't deny it. My stomach twisted, and for the first time I wondered if I'd been wrong about her. Answer me, I said, my voice breaking. Was there someone else? Did you hurt her? Riley's silence was answer enough. She reached for me, but I stepped back, tears burning my eyes. I thought you were different, I whispered, turning away before she could see me cry. The rest of the week was agony. I avoided Riley, throwing myself into camp activities to numb the pain. But every laugh, every song, every sunset reminded me of her. I wanted to hate her, but I couldn't. I kept replaying her words from the mess hall, her kiss by the lake, the way she'd looked at me like I was her world. Was it all a lie? Or was there more to her story, more to us? I couldn't avoid Riley forever. Camp Whispering Pines was too small, our lives too intertwined. By the 5th week, the tension between us was a living thing, coiling tighter with every shared glance, every brush of shoulders in the mess hall. I wanted answers, but more than that, I wanted her, despite the rumors, despite the hurt. The campers were preparing for the final week's big event, a nighttime canoe race across the lake. I was assigned to Riley's team, a cruel twist of fate. We worked in silence, checking life vests and paddles, the air thick with unspoken words. Finally, I couldn't stand it. We need to talk, I said, my voice low so the campers wouldn't hear. Riley's jaw tightened, but she nodded. After the race, she said. Meet me at the boathouse. The race was chaos, kids shouting, paddles splashing, the lake glowing under a full moon. Riley was in her element, calling out encouragements, her voice steady and sure. I watched her, my heart torn between anger and longing. When our team crossed the finish line first, the campers erupted in cheers and Riley's eyes met mine. A fleeting moment of warmth before her guard snapped back into place. At the boathouse, the world felt quieter. The only sound the gentle lap of water against wood. Riley was waiting, her hands stuffed in her pockets, her face shadowed. You want the truth? She asked, her voice rough. Fine. Yes, there was someone last summer. Her name was Sarah. We got close, too close. But it wasn't what people think. I crossed my arms, bracing myself. Then what was it? I asked. Riley sighed, running a hand through her hair. Sarah was confused. She thought she loved me, but she wasn't ready to face what that meant. When she left, it wasn't because I hurt her. It was because she couldn't handle who she was. I tried to help her, Emma, but I couldn't save her from herself. Her words hit hard, echoing my own fears. I'd spent years hiding, afraid of what it meant to love who I loved. Why didn't you tell me? I asked, my voice softer now. Riley's eyes met mine, raw and unguarded. Because I didn't want you to think I was using you to fix my past. You're not Sarah. You're You're everything I've been trying not to want. My breath caught, and before I could stop myself, I closed the distance between us, my hands framing her face. I'm not running, I said fiercely. I'm right here, Riley. I'm not her. For a moment she just stared at me, her eyes shimmering with something like hope. Then she kissed me hard and desperate, like she was afraid I'd vanish. I kissed her back, pouring every ounce of my heart into it, and for the first time I felt her let go. The next few days were a blur of stolen moments. We were careful sneaking kisses behind the cabins, sharing quiet talks under the stars, but the camp was watching. Karen's warnings grew sharper, and I overheard campers whispering, their innocent questions laced with curiosity. Are Miss Emma and Coach Riley dating? One asked, and my heart sank. I didn't care what they thought, but I knew Riley did. Her past had made her cautious, and I could feel her pulling back, even as she held me closer. One night, as we lay on a blanket by the lake, Riley's head resting on my shoulder, she spoke softly. I want this, Emma. More than anything. But I'm scared. Not just for me, for you. This place, these people. They can tear us apart. I squeezed her hand, my heart aching. Then we'll fight for it, I said. Together. But the fight came sooner than I expected. The next morning, Karen called an emergency staff meeting. We've had complaints, she said, her eyes locked on Riley and me. Parents are concerned about inappropriate behavior between staff members. My stomach dropped. Riley's face went pale, her hand gripping mine under the table. This camp is about the kids, Karen continued. Personal relationships can't compromise that. I'm recommending one of you be reassigned. The room spun. Reassigned meant leaving camp, leaving Riley. I opened my mouth to protest, but Riley spoke first, her voice steady. I'll go, she said, and my heart shattered. No, I whispered, but she shook her head, her eyes pleading with me to stay quiet. After the meeting, I followed her outside, my voice shaking. You can't do this, I said. You can't just leave. I have to, she said, her voice breaking. If I stay, they'll make your life hell. I won't let that happen. Tears stung my eyes, but she cupped my face, her thumbs brushing them away. This isn't goodbye, Emma. I promise. She kissed me, soft and fleeting, then walked away, leaving me alone with the weight of her sacrifice. The next day, Riley was gone. Her cabin was empty, her name erased from the staff roster. The campers asked questions, but I had no answers. I threw myself into the final days of camp, my heart hollow. But late at night, I'd sit by the lake, replaying every moment, her voice, her touch, her love. I didn't know if I'd see her again, but I knew one thing. Riley Morgan had changed me, and I wasn't letting her go without a fight. Camp ended in a blur of tearful goodbyes and packed bags, but I barely noticed. Riley's absence was a wound that wouldn't heal. I'd scoured the camp for any trace of hair on note, an address, anything, but she'd left nothing behind. The other counselors avoided my eyes, and Karen's smug satisfaction only fueled my anger. I wasn't giving up. Back in Ohio, I threw myself into finding her. I searched social media, called old camp contacts, even reached out to a friend who knew someone in Chicago. Weeks passed with no leads, and doubt crept in. Had I misread her? Was I chasing a ghost? But then I remembered her voice that night behind the mess hall. The way she'd said my name like it was her lifeline. I couldn't let that go. One rainy afternoon, I found a grainy photo on a camp alum's Instagram, tagged with Riley's name. It was from a community center in Chicago, where she was coaching a youth soccer team. My heart raced as I booked a bus ticket, not caring that I had no plan, no guarantee she'd want to see me. I just needed to know. The community center was a squat brick building in a bustling Chicago neighborhood. I stood outside, my hands shaking as I watched kids kick a ball around a muddy field. Then I saw her, Riley, her black hair tied back, her whistle glinting in the rain. She was shouting encouragements, her smile as bright as I remembered. My breath caught, and for a moment I couldn't move. Then she turned, her eyes locking onto mine, and time stopped. Emma, she said, her voice a mix of shock and hope. She jogged over, the kids forgotten, and stopped just short of me. What are you doing here? I swallowed hard, my heart pounding. You left, I said, my voice trembling. You didn't even say goodbye. Her face fell, and she reached for my hand, her touch grounding me. I thought I was protecting you, she said. I thought. I thought you'd be better off without me. Better off. I laughed, bitter and broken. Riley, you're all I've thought about since the moment I heard you say my name. I don't care about the camp, or the gossip, or your past. I just want you. Her eyes shimmered with tears, and she pulled me into her arms, her embrace fierce and warm. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I was scared. But I'm done running. We stood there in the rain holding each other, the world fading away. When we finally pulled apart, she smiled, that shy, unguarded smile I'd fallen for. Come inside, she said. Let me show you my life. Over coffee in the community center's tiny break room, she told me everything: her work with the kids, her dreams of starting her own youth program, the scars she still carried from her past. I told her about my own fears, my hopes, the way she changed me. For the first time we were honest, no walls between us. Months later, we were building a life together in Chicago. It wasn't perfect, there were fights, doubts, moments when old wounds resurfaced. But we faced them together, our love stronger for it. Riley taught me to trust, to fight for what mattered. I taught her to let go of the past, to believe in us. One night, as we sat on her tiny apartment balcony, the city lights sprawling below, she took my hand. I love you, Emma, she said, her voice steady. I should have said it sooner. I knew, I said, smiling. I heard you that first night. She laughed, pulling me close, and I knew we'd found something worth fighting for, a love that didn't hide, a future that didn't flinch. Camp Whispering Pines had been the start, but the Seuss was the real story, one we'd write together, no matter what came next. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe to get notifications about next videos.